Are you ready, Aaron? It is 7:13 p.m. Will you please join me for the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Policy number 1230, public comment at board meetings. Thank you for coming this evening. I would like to read portions of Board Policy 1230, public comment at board meetings. The Board of Education encourages public comment on school-related matters at board meetings as outlined in this policy. To allow for public comment, a period not to exceed 30 minutes shall be set aside during the first part of each board meeting for public comment, with priority given to comments on items on the meeting's agenda. A second 30-minute time period will be set aside at the end of each board meeting for public comment on matters pertaining to the district but not on the agenda. These periods may be extended by a majority vote of the board. Persons wishing to address the board shall advise the board president prior to the scheduled start time of the meeting. The request shall be made in writing on a form provided by the district and shall include the name of the speaker, the address, telephone number, name of the organization represented, if any, and a brief description of the topic to be addressed. Presentation should be as brief as possible. No speaker will be permitted to speak longer than 5 minutes. The board will not permit public session discussion involving individual district personnel or students. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Persons making presentations at a board meeting will address remarks to the president and may direct questions or comments to the board members or district officials only upon the approval of the president. If you would like to address the board tonight, the forms are on the table by the door. Please complete them and give them to the district clerk, Ms. Pena. Also, as a reminder, guests to board meetings should please wear masks and observe all proper social distancing protocols. All right, there are no items of correspondence. We do have some presentations and guests. We have college speech class student presentation, David Allison. So you want to come forward, Davey?
First off, I would like to thank you for taking the time to listen to me today. We all want to see our sports teams here at Tri-Valley being competitive. We want to see our teams playing in sectional games and in championship games. But to accomplish that, we need to build our programs through the weight room and as a team. Throughout my time here at Tri-Valley, I've learned many things. I've also participated in many extracurricular activities. But the activity that meant the most to me was football. But there is more to football than just playing the sport in the fall. I learned how important it was to train all year round in the weight room. When I started, I was just in 7th grade and playing on the modified team, and I attended almost every weight room up until its closure due to COVID in 2020. The effect that the weight room had on us as a team was incredible. My freshman year, we won the Section 9 championship. It was a huge accomplishment for us as we obviously weren't the best team in the years prior. The next year, my sophomore year, we made it all the way back to the championship game and unfortunately lost. But in the spring, the weight room was closed due to COVID. And when we came back in the fall, our weight room had been turned into the COVID positive room, which it still is today. Our season was moved to the spring, but we weren't allowed to have weight rooms. Our season was only 4 games long, and we won 2 games, but we were incredibly outmatched speed and strength-wise for the first time since I started playing. Over the summer, we were given a makeshift weight room in the garage by the drying room. At first it worked, but later on a bunch of construction equipment was stored in there, so we struggled to have the space to work out together. And when football started up again this fall, we didn't have the season we expected, and we were greatly outmatched. We needed to be in the weight room, but because of the circumstances, we couldn't. The weight room benefited our strength and speed greatly, but it wasn't only important for our physical standing. The weight room helped us play better as a team and care about each other. One thing I was always told by my coaches was that we need to play for the man next to us, not for ourselves. By working out as a team all year round, We were a much better team and we cared about each other, and this showed when we won the championship. But one of the biggest issues, other than being outmatched physically during these past 2 seasons, was the fighting within our team. We didn't train with each other all year, so when we started playing in the spring and the fall, we didn't have that bond that a great team needs to have. This, in my eyes, is very important, and only something that can be fixed by having teams train and support each other all year round. Now that we are in the off season, we are trying to get the weight room to open back up, and it seems like every time we start to get close to it, nothing progresses towards it. On top of that, the quality of our weight room is not that good. We were supposed to get a new weight room, but due to COVID, that got put on hold. It is very important, not just for football, but for every sport, that we get a new weight room. Our weight room is very small, and half the space is filled with cardio machines. I can't think of a single time that I can recall more than half the machines being used at the same time. And before COVID, I used to be in the weight room almost every night. If the cardio machines were moved and the wall splitting the 2 rooms was taken down, we could have a lot more room to have better quality equipment and also have space to work out. On top of that, we wouldn't all be crammed into a small space, which would be great for a time like now. My time playing football at Tri-Valley is over, but an investment on a new weight room would benefit the future of every sport here at Tri-Valley. I hope to come back in a few years and watch the football team play a playoff game. But for that to happen, it starts in the weight room, building strength, getting faster, and building bonds with teammates. Thank you.
So David, before you go anywhere, I reached out to Dr. Silver during the week because I knew this topic was coming, and we've spoken about it in the past, and I hear about it at home all the time. And I inquired as to what the status is of getting the weight room open. COVID, kind of prevented us from doing a lot, but hopefully now that the numbers seem to be going down in the community, we're hopeful that the weight room will open next week or the week after. We do know the importance of it for our fall athletes, not just football, for soccer, and for the spring sports as well. So I hope that's welcome news. I'm really sad that you're not playing football here next year. It's been a pleasure watching the seniors play this year and all the way through their high school years. So hopefully, as the numbers do stay on the downward trend, you guys will have your weight room in the next week or 2. Okay. Does anybody else have any comments or questions for David? Well, thank you very much, Davey. Next, we have an Eagle Scout presentation, Van Furman.
Hello, my name is Van Furman, and I'm planning on putting a record board at the track. Some materials that will be needed is the record board is made out of aluminum and will be posted on 2 wooden posts. It can also be posted on the back of fences or bleachers. The board can be customized to our school, and we can put new records on it. The records are changeable. They're stickers, and you can stick them over top of the old records. We can put our school logos on top of the. We can put our school logos on the board. So the sign has all of the track and field events. It's got the distance events, the throwing events, and the sprinting events, and the jumping events. So the board itself is $849. And shipping is about $150 to $200. And the posts are about $20 per post. And the posts are 16 feet tall. The board is 5 feet by 5 feet. So are there any questions?
I had a couple questions, Van.
Yeah.
Do you know a specific location at the track that you would like to place this board?
Yeah, so the bleachers behind the bleachers there are red stones. The red stones closest to the pavilion. Any other questions?
When are you looking to accomplish this project? Right after the winter and the spring thaw?
Maybe right after school ends, so maybe July, June, July.
When you order the board and have it designed, is it something that you're going to present to Jason Kloss to look at to approve the actual design for it, or do you have something that you have in the works or have an idea of what you anticipate it looking like?
Well, I was gonna ask for some logos to put on the record board, and yes, I'll probably show Jason Kloss, or Mr. Kloss.
Anybody else have any questions? And these would be for new records, right? Or you're not going to go for past track and field records. This would be for records from 2000 or 2022 on, or are you looking for the history of the school?
It's going to be the current records for all the events. So I will pay for all of this stuff myself, but I'm asking, like, I don't know how to say it, like, get paid back maybe?
So you would like the school to sponsor
Yes.
your Eagle Scout project? Are there any other anticipated expenditures that you have? Just the sign, the posts, and the delivery expense? That's all you expect right now?
That's it, yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Van?
I would recommend that he get in contact with Mr. Pell and talk about the installation, location, and whatever, his staff could be of assistance.
Did you hear that, Van?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you said you were gonna ask the school for decals to put on it, or like a template for them to use our decals as part of the design?
Yeah, like a template, and I'll send it to them, and they'll print everything out. And also the records, they will print out the records and they will ship them to us. And it's like a sticker, so you can just put it over top of the old record. That's the easiest way.
And then this company will do the record. So whoever accomplishes a record for a particular season, the school then would assume responsibility for ordering the stickers to make sure that the records are put on there
Yeah.
Yeah.
moving forward, just so everybody understands that. Okay. All right. Do you have any questions for us, Van?
No.
All right, so I need a motion and a second to approve Van Furman's Eagle Scout project. Motion Randy, second Keith. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote yes by raising your right hand. All right, Van, you have an Eagle Scout project. Good luck, and keep us posted. If you have any questions, you know to reach out to Jesse Bell or to Mr. Kloss, okay?
All right.
All right, thanks, Van. Good luck. All right, next, graduation gown presentation, April Caicos and students.
Well, we are here to talk about something very positive, and believe it or not, it's the end of the first semester already, and we're thinking about graduation. So, as we were thinking it's the end of the first semester and we're headed towards graduation, last week myself and Kevin Drew, who are the new graduation coordinators, tried to fill the big gap that Brenda Sloan left when she retired. We met with Dave Pulley to talk about what we needed to do, what kinds of things we had, what we needed to think about, and one of the things that came up was the fact that we needed to purchase new graduation gowns, because after graduation last year, all the graduation gowns went home with the students, and we need to purchase new ones for this year. So with all of the changes that students have had to deal with for the last couple of years, we approached this as a great opportunity to create a new tradition and to let our students have an input into what happens going forward. So with any change in tradition, there's always some growing pains, and we've heard some comments, we've had some questions, but what we're here tonight to do is to share with you what the process has been so far, and what the students have chosen as part of their graduation, because ultimately this is about them and not about anyone else. It's their graduation, and I wanted to make sure that they had a voice in this. So Ben Smith is here tonight to speak. He is the senior class president, and Alex Allison is the senior class treasurer. She had the nice duty of handing out all of our choices to you. And I'm going to hand it over to Ben.
Thank you. So as she said, I'm here to highlight the process of this entire endeavor of ours. And we found out about it, I should say the senior class found out about it last week. The officer team from Mrs. Gakis and Mr. Drew, and then the rest of the senior class through correspondence to them through their emails and our Google Classroom. So they were able to really get a jump start on what they were looking at. As you can see, there are 3 options, and that was sent to them as well. And they had about 4 days to look at it until we had a vote on it yesterday, starting first period and going through the end of 5th. So at the end of it, I'm happy to announce option number 2 has won, and we are in the process of collecting all the other information necessary from the senior class in order to get these on their way here. So I really do think that this was a really good opportunity, especially from the past 2 years that we've had very little opportunity to have our opinions shown through an action in the school, and the senior class really needed this. We've had almost 2 full years of COVID-ridden curriculum, I should say, the best word for it. And I thought it was a really good opportunity for all of us to become more active in the school again. And even though this is a very small thing, it really made an impact. So, thank you.
Any questions for us?
Are these going to be purchased by each individual senior, or the school's going to purchase them and then continue with the tradition of having the gowns returned at the end of graduation?
There is a budget code which is embedded in there. I don't know what it is, but Mr. Pulley and Mr. Whitaker do, and they'll assist us in that. But yes, it is something that is budgeted for. The district will be purchasing them as they do each year, and we'll recollect. And as we need to, we'll replace any that are worn or damaged as graduations occur. But no, it is something the district will purchase. It will not be an expense for anyone in the community. That way, we're not differentiating between those who can afford it and those who cannot. The district purchases them.
I'm very excited about the colors. I mean,
And
this is,
it's nice, we're complementing the school colors. I mean, I look around, everything is the navy blue and the red, and it'll be nice to see that. I can't wait to see the actual gown when they come in.
great.
And any shipment issues that are gonna be here?
Well, that was part of why we expedited this. When we met last week, I immediately reached out to the Jostens rep, and he's like, oh, we need to do this like last week. So we're doing it this week, because we really wanted it last week, but he has assured me that because we don't have a class of 600, that Jostens is able to accommodate us if we can tell them, again, what our design is, and we're already collecting the sizes. We've got probably 2/3 of the class already, their sizes gathered, and I will be sending that information out, some of it tomorrow and some of it next week, and it will be on its way, and they're assuring us we'll have it for graduation. And we know how shipping delays are, so I'm definitely pushing them.
Does it make sense to purchase the gowns to have enough on hand for next year's graduates? Because this class is such a small class.
We will purchase some additional ones. The problem is that they're not all one size fits all. So we can purchase some additional ones. Mr. Pulley and I were talking like we need to have a few for senior portraits going forward, so we have them on hand for when the photographers are here. But it's not really, every year we're going to have to add somewhat to the collection until we build a full collection. But we will order some extras this year, and, you know, every group is a little bit different in size and shape, and we'll make sure that everybody has what they need.
Or just because of the two-tone, I was just concerned that we won't have an issue next year where they're like, oh, sorry, we're not
Once
making
they've established this for us, then it's kind of a standing order, and they just add to it. It's the initial order that becomes the big timeline issue.
And how much is it for just one? Just for,
Off the top of my head, I don't have the exact amount, but it is the same standard price that we have always paid for a gown. There is no change in the pricing of what it's been when we were ordering to replace or fix for the last few years.
And you said it was budgeted already.
It's already budgeted, yes.
Any chance that this becomes like a tradition?
That's what we're hoping.
I mean, to change the.
Well,
accounts?
that's kind of, not my call, but, if that's something that we're willing to look at. If that were the case, I definitely would want to talk to Jocelyn about what their timeline would be. And if this was something we wanted to look at and have the kids vote every year, we would probably have to start, I'm sure, much sooner, even in non-COVID times, just because of setups and so forth.
And just the seniors voted for this?
Just the seniors voted for this, yes.
Anybody else? And you don't need our approval for this, correct? This is just presenting to us, this is what we're
Say,
going with?
Dr.
and
Sanders,
we do need
No,
our
no, no,
approval?
you don't need
yeah,
approval.
no. This is fantastic, and I'm glad that your class took the initiative to do this. I never understood the white and blue. I don't know where it came from.
My parents graduated in white and blue, and they hated the whites back then, so I'm very excited.
Right, this is wonderful. Well, good luck. Hopefully it comes in timely and halfway through. I mean, it's amazing. So, all right, great decision. I was going with number 2 myself. So,
Ooh, we picked the right one.
yeah.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you doing the next or
Bob
Bob?
is.
Okay, so Mr. Whitaker on the reserve policy, governor's budget, office of state controller, fiscal stress score presentation.
Sounds like a lot. I'm gonna try to get through this pretty quick with you. Good evening, everybody. Okay, about 6 years ago, the Office of the State Controller started giving every school district a fiscal stress score every year. We just got ours, I believe it was yesterday or the day before. Just go right along, Aaron. Come on. Okay. There's 2 different scores. One is your fiscal stress score and your environmental stress score. Basically, how your finances are and what your environment in your school is like. Every school will get some marks on their environmental score. So for this year, and it's basically out of our control, but there is a score of 56% of our students are economically disadvantaged, which gave us a score of 8.33. That's a score that, that's what it is. And some of these scores will make me crazy. Turnover rate of teachers. As we all know, administrators here, we've had a lot of retirees. We have a lot of new teachers. We had a lot of people on probationary terms. So we got us 18%, so we got a score of 15. That score 4 or 5 years ago was basically 0 because we had very little turnover. So our total fiscal score for our environmental score was 23.3. But from 0 to 29.9, there's no designation, which basically means your environmental condition is not anything to be worried about. So, but that's where the score comes from. Oh, darn it. I love these things. This is our fiscal score. Our fiscal score was 0. Our fiscal stress was 0. Not because of me, but because of everybody that works here, the conditions that I walked into when I got here, and the efforts that we all make. The Office of the State Controller has determined that we have no areas that they look at that we had to get a score, so we scored 0 everywhere. We should be proud of that as a district, because we all work hard to maintain our fiscal integrity, and basically the Office of the State Controller has said, you've done a good job. Any questions on this? Okay, what do we want to do next? 3 years ago, the Office of the State Controller was here doing our audit. At that time, we started talking about reserve plans and reserve policies. All school districts have fund reserves. We're no different. Basically, in each of your board packets tonight, There's a definition of all the different reserve funds that the state allows. In ours, I've highlighted the ones that we use, the balances as of November 30th of this past year, and the date they were created. And a definition of how they came to be, what you can use them for. This is an introductory thing for the Board of Education to go through. Our goal is by the spring, sometime in the spring, to come up with a reserve fund plan and/or / policy. The Office of the State Controller will start looking at that. In all the board members' packets, I gave you a sample of one from Sullivan County BOCES. It's pretty simplistic. It follows a lot of what the definitions are. And basically what it's saying is every year the board has to be updated, even though every month you get a bank reconciliation on them, but we will talk about each reserve fund. We'd like to start this as an introductory tonight so that we can move forward. I know you guys have a very busy time coming up, but hopefully before the end of this school year, we can have this plan in place so we're ready for next year. And last but not least, today's Thursday, right? I think it was Tuesday. The governor came out with the governor's proposal for budget. Talked about the budget for everything in New York State. That immediately spurs, within about 12 hours, state aid runs coming out based upon the governor's numbers. Looking at our numbers real quickly, the good news is we have an increase of a little over $325,000 in state aid for next year. Wow, that's good. But we have some negatives, and I just want to review them, why there are some negatives. If we look at our building aid is down over $375,000. Last year during budget season, I told you last year was an anomaly. The 2016 project, building aid kicked in last year, added on to all our other aids. But I did say that this last year was the last year for building aid on the 2002 project. I can't remember which number it is, but so we have a reduction of $377,000 in state aid in the building portion. It was understood, I knew a year ago it was going to be here, so that's not taking us by surprise. The other major drop was in transportation aid, down about $72,000. Transportation aid is driven by this huge set of variables, but the two variables that probably had a play in this more than anything else were drop in enrollment, and everybody during COVID, we didn't do athletics. We didn't do a lot of our expenses, so it is expense-driven also. So this is not surprising. So grand total, those two areas knocked off $450,000 of our state aid. So 325 plus that, it would have been quite a lot larger. We did get, the foundation aid was an extra $548,000 last year. The governor proposed that they would make everybody whole on foundation aid, which has been years in the making. So initially, we have an increase of $325,000, a hair more. Once again, this is the governor's proposal. Once the legislature gets in there and they start negotiating, this number will fluctuate. Speculating, most times it goes up, could go down. But this is a starting point as we look at our revenue for the coming year. After last week's presentation, or 2 weeks ago, with our gaps and everything, this is welcome news. If you look, as you look along the county here, if you look Monticello, Liberty Fallsburg, they all got a lot more money. Sullivan, West Eldred, they all the same. Every year, we're like in the middle of everybody there. So it didn't surprise me. And like I said, this is just the first bit of information we got from the governor's budget. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Have a good night. Stay warm.
Okay, next, public comment session for items that are on tonight's agenda. Justine, you're signed in to speak, but they're not on the agenda, so they can,
I actually I have questions. that I'd like to pose, just to clear up some things. So I saw the newsletter, the Volume 2 Quarterly Connection, on this site, which I really liked. I hadn't seen that before. I know it came in the kids' school bags, I think last year, but I hadn't seen it posted. I have a question on it, though. For March 31st, there's a Transgender Day of Visibility. What does that mean? What is that?
What are you referring to? I'm on the website now.
Oh, okay. The Quarterly Connection?
Is that something?
Tri-Valley's Clinical Corner newsletter.
And what is your question?
Okay, the 31st of March is labeled Transgender Day of Visibility. I want to know what that is. Like, what does that mean for the
Look at
day?
back there.
Do the kids,
Look back there, right?
how is it celebrated during the school day? What does that entail?
I don't know.
Oh.
I would have to have Dr. Silver
I'll get back to you.
in touch with you.
Okay. Okay, the other thing is, I know we have I have the code of conduct for the children, the students. Is there a code of conduct for teachers?
Dr. Silver?
No, not officially.
Okay,
There's professional ethics standards that are in the state statutes and the regulations of the Board of Regents. But there's nothing, it's not the equivalent of.
okay. Okay, are they posted anywhere? Is that on a site that we can reference, that I can reference?
I'll have to look for it.
I'm sorry, what was
I'll have
that?
to look for it.
Oh, that would be good, thank you, okay. And I guess in that, I would like to know if there's a policy on teachers' dress code.
That's an item for collective bargaining.
I'm sorry?
It's an item for collective bargaining. The district can't impose a dress code on a teachers' union, but they can negotiate one.
Okay, okay. And is there a policy for teachers as it pertains to personal social media? If they're employed by the school, is there a policy on what they can post on social media, et cetera? Content, that kind of thing?
Again, I'll have to read the
Okay.
policy and get back to you.
Okay, so when can I expect to hear back, maybe?
By the middle-
Timeframe?
Yeah, by the early next week.
Okay, okay, thank you, that was it.
Thank you, Justine. Thank you. Next, consent agenda. Are there any items the board wishes pulled from tonight's consent agenda? No. Need a motion and a second? Motion Randy, second Aaron. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote.
You skipped me.
Oh, I skipped you. I'm
That's okay.
sorry.
It's all right. You can go through everything else and get me later.
Oh, I scrolled too far down. I apologize. Unanimous? Okay, next, I apologize, Superintendents Report, Dr. Silver.
I have nothing I want to add to notes. A couple of things, actually, I hope, a fairly long list. The legislature and the governor extended the authority to conduct public meetings virtually. It would have expired on January 15th. On January 14th, she signed a new order. And this one goes not to a date certain, but to when the health emergency is declared over. So if you want to do remote meetings, we have the authority to do so. I was talking to Dave Phelps today, and they've extended the bid opening date till February 2nd. They still plan on recommending the bids to the board on meeting on the 3rd. This is not unusual, because there's always this back and forth between contractors and the architects and construction management, and they have to publish an addendum, and then the contractors need time to respond. So this is very typical, and hopefully we'll stay on track. The absences due to COVID. So this is those are the secondary school slide, but that's the percentage of students in school. So you can see the curve has started to turn over on the right-hand side of the chart. The elementary school one is even a little bit more clear. You can see that dip, and then it heads back up. So things are getting better in terms of numbers of kids out. It's still a fairly large number. I think there's one more there. So that's trending in the right direction. This is just this week's numbers. So on Monday, we had 115 kids out due to COVID. Yesterday, we only had 58. Today, it's back up to 79. But we're back to the numbers that we were seeing before Christmas. So that's a much better place. And when you look at the county numbers, they're going down also. So I think we're headed into a better place, at least for a while, and then we'll see what happens. There's been a lot of changes to the guidance for schools in addressing COVID in terms of either isolation or quarantining. I was telling somebody today that we've gotten guidance from either the state health department, the state education department, or our local public health services. Since the beginning of December, on December 10th, December 23rd, December 24th, January 3rd, January 10th, January 13th, and January 14th. So we've had 8 different sets of guidance in 6 weeks. So there's a lot of adjustments going on. The biggest adjustment is the CDC has recommended and the state has adopted a shorter quarantine period, 5 days instead of 10 days. And for students or adults who are completely vaccinated and boosted, if they're age eligible, they don't have to quarantine at all. They can attend class and wear a mask. That's for kids who are exposed, not kids who they have to be asymptomatic and vaccinated. So there's also a lot of other changes that we'll all experience. Now the health department won't contact you. If you're positive, you have to go onto a website at the Public Health Service website, and they have a self-attestation portal where you enter your own information and data and test results, and then you can download a quarantine order, and when your quarantine expires, you download another thing that you can present to your employer or whatever you need it for. So there's a lot of changes. Sort of on the good side, or at least the easier side, they've produced flow charts that actually make sense and are fairly easy to use, so that's what our nurses have started to use to make determinations about kids being in school or teachers being in school. So that's been eating us alive, the amount of time we're spending on that. Governor's budget, other than dollars, there's always policy changes embedded in the governor's budget, so there are a few that affect us and a few that don't, but I just thought you might be interested in them because it depends on how the legislature decides to act on them. The foundation aid, Bob mentioned, so that's a 3% across the board for everybody, and then it builds from there depending on the district's need. There's not going to be an expansion of pre-kindergarten funding, which is a little bit of a surprise. But the budget allocates $100 million over 2 years for mental health grants for school districts. They're also addressing school bus issues with zero emissions, so it's going to require all new buses purchased after July 1, 2027 to be zero emission vehicles, and after 2035, for all of us who are still around, all buses will have to be zero emission that are in service. They're also putting some money towards positive school climate grants. The teacher shortage, she had several proposals. One was temporary professional certificates for state ed, so they can issue certificates more quickly. An elimination of the $35,000 limit on earnings for retirees, so hopefully we can get some retirees to come back into service that way. And some, to Justine's question, some ethics changes. Expands the number of people related to school board members or school leaders that could disqualify the school district from a contractual relationship with certain businesses because of conflicts of interest. And it also eliminates the $75 gift exemption and redefines a prohibited gift as something more than nominal value. She also proposed a new property tax credit in addition to the STAR credit that we also get now, and basically the state is swimming in money. They don't know what to do with it all. So she projected there wouldn't be a deficit in state funding through 2026, 27. So that is the news from the governor's office. And last but not least, I guess that was the last thing I had. So that's it.
That's it.
Let's see if anyone has any questions.
Any questions? That's a lot of information. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot. Thanks.
All right, board committee reports. The policy committee? No. Are you up to date? Up to date at this point. Old business. There's no items of old business. Public comment session for items that are not on tonight's agenda. We have nobody else that has signed in to speak. Announcements, reminders, and upcoming events. Mr. Polly.
As was already mentioned, the end of the first semester is next Friday. It's amazing to think that we're halfway through the school year. I'm going to choose to be hopeful tonight. The last 2 years we know have been very difficult on our school and on our students. And for many of our students, and particularly those who are not involved in athletics, school is not school for them. And so in being hopeful, we're choosing to look forward and to move forward and trying to return to a sense of normalcy and hope for our students. So with that, we are planning for Color Wars, and that will occur in March. We are also planning for a competition night in March. We also have a date set for the prom in May. In the very near future, it's interesting, when we've worked with our student councils, the 7th and 8th grade would love to have a dance, and our 9 through 12 want an activity night. So we will do everything to make that happen for them. We're hopeful that certainly by the time we get into March and April and May, that many of the restrictions that we currently are functioning under will be reduced, and certainly the prevailing guidance at the time of those events. But we're committed with the Color Wars and the competition night to make it happen for the students. How it ultimately may turn out in terms of who might be able to come in attendance, I'll update you as we get closer to that. So we're hoping for a great second half to this school year. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things that is done in the curriculum department has to do with collecting information about our students and our student management system. And there's a new requirement this year that we have information about all of our students' digital access, so including devices that they have personally, that they have been given by the school, and the internet access at their homes, and whether it's reliable or if it's inadequate, and whether they share their devices. And we've been collecting the information little by little, and now we're down to about a third of our students that we don't have information for. So you'll be seeing that popping up on the website as a survey. The information will go home to the particular students, parents, and guardians that have not responded yet. So we're not doing a big robocall for everyone, but we will be sending that information out, trying to collect the rest of the information. And again, it's not by family, it is by individual students. So that's one of the things that we're working on in terms of data reporting. And we're also working on our civil rights data collection, which is due later in February. And that information is all kinds of information by demographics. So it would have to do with students who took algebra, for example, students who passed algebra, for example. Many pieces of information, sports teams, and a great deal of information. So that's a big effort that's going on now. In terms of planning ahead, the art and music and tech teachers are planning to do the showcase event that happens on budget day. And now we're already starting to talk about our summer program.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight we had our our annual ENL Family Night, which was a great success. I just want to thank all the families who came out and attended to participate. And also I'd like to thank Kat Shamro and Diana Mendez, our ENL teachers. They put on a wonderful evening event filled with activities, things for the families to do. They took them on a tour of the district, gave them a lot of updated information on how to access things that they might not know how to do, and we also had dinner for them. So it was a very nice little successful evening for that.
Thank you, Danielle. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to certainly thank everybody who put on the ENL event this evening. It was really fun to see some of our ENL elementary students there enjoying their cupcakes. For some future events for us, next week we will be having a Sticks and Stones assembly for kindergarten through 6. It will be a virtual assembly. The students will be having that in their classrooms. There's 2 sessions set up, and it does incorporate a martial arts theme. So we're hoping that although it is virtual, we'll go ahead and certainly be able to keep the students' attention. Mr. Pulley did say that we're approaching that end of our first semester. And finally, I did get a call from the PTO today. They will be having their Someone Special dance, so that's exciting. They have, though, chosen to move the location to our local firehouse, but we will certainly go ahead and do everything we can to support that event. So the Someone Special dance is coming back around. That certainly gives us all some hope that things are going in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the board has a couple of announcements as well. This evening, or actually on January 30th, Mrs. Pompey and Lisa Conger are retiring. So we just wanted to thank them and wish them congratulations on their retirement. We have selected a day for our superintendent search community forums, faculty forums, and administration forums. So we have 2 dates. The first date is Tuesday, February 8th. We're going to start off with our faculty and staff from 3:30 to 4:30 up in the high school auditorium. We're going to meet with Dr. Dufour, who's leading our search through BOCES. And then we are going to meet from 4:30 to 5:30 with our administration up in the high school auditorium as well. Hopefully the heat works and we don't have any issues up in that space, but that's where we're planning on meeting. If the location changes within the building, we will let you know. And as far as the community members, we are set for February 10th. It's a Thursday evening from 7 to 8 o'clock p.m. up in the high school auditorium. We're looking for as many stakeholders to participate in that forum. Last time we did this, we had over 100 people attend. We're looking for students, parents, grandparents, local community members, business owners, to get as much feedback as we can as to what our community is looking for our next superintendent. So we did finalize those dates again, February 8th for our staff, February 10th for our community. It's an important process for us, and it's important that we do have community involvement. So if you can jot those dates down. Flyers are going home with every single student. So if you have a high school student, they will have this in their backpack. Look for it. We did get some feedback that our high school secondary students are not giving their guardians and their parents information. So please, here is your public service announcement. This flyer will be in every secondary student's backpack, as well as our elementary children. And I think that is it for the board. All right, next, new business. First, we have contract amendment phase 2, SWBR. Be it resolved, the board approves the contract amendment for SWBR Architects for phase 2 of the construction project. Need a motion and a second. Motion Keith, second Randy. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote. Is unanimous. Next, contract amendment phase 2, LaChase Construction. Be it resolved, the board approves the contract amendment phase 2 of the construction project for LaChase Construction. Need a motion and a second? Motion Aaron, second Brent. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote. Is unanimous. I do want to thank Dave and Corey, Bob and Dr. Silver for working together. This was on our agenda 2 weeks ago. We did ask everybody to come together again to renegotiate. So there was a substantial savings to our community by waiting 2 weeks to go forth with those approvals. Next, we have proposed draft academic calendar for the 22-23 school year. Just for information and discussion, is attached to the public content of the agenda. I don't see anything that really stands out. Other than, and we typically have a Thursday start for the beginning of the school. Anyway, right? They don't return on Wednesdays, do they? The students, they do.
Well, it
They
depends,
have.
it depends on, this year they did.
Okay.
It depends on when Labor Day falls, actually.
So it's just that was the only thing that stood out to me was the Thursday start for the.
Yeah, and we were able to add the vacation day, the day before Thanksgiving, and the day after Easter. So that makes it a little easier for families as well.
Yeah, it looks good to me. So we'll add it to next
Yes.
meeting's agenda for approval. Gosh, I think that is it. There is no need to go into an executive session. So I need
You have one more,
do it.
One thing.
creation of position.
I just got booted from Word doc. Sorry, my apologies. There we go, creation of position. Be it resolved, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education create the following position for the 21-22 school year. 1 clerical position, Sullivan County Civil Service typist. Position will be governed by the collective bargaining agreement with TESA and be paid as part of the unified step schedule. Position will be funded through ESSER 2 through June 30th, 2023. My question is, where is this particular typist going? Is it an elementary position, secondary
It's
position?
shared between tech ed, IT, and Jesse, maintenance.
Maintenance. And he has had a secretary in the past.
In the
He's just
past,
been-
but
yeah.
not now, and Aaron has never had one.
Any other discussion, questions? And this is funded through the ESSER grant?
Yes.
All right, I need a motion and a second. Motion Rose, second Danielle. Any discussion? Please proceed to vote. Is unanimous. Again, no need to enter into an executive session this evening, so I need a motion and a second to adjourn. Motion Aaron, second Randy. No discussion, I'm assuming. Please proceed to vote. It is 8:08 PM. Have a very nice evening. Thank you.